What he called the key to everything was the first-hand knowledge that the earth is a sentient being, and as such can give warriors a tremendous boost. Carlos Castaneda, the fire from within. The idea of the plurality of parallel worlds has always been attractive for thinking minds and an established fact for mystics and philosophers. Ancient sages considered the world as an infinite mystery and man as its reflection. But does man perceive the world in all its diversity? No. One's used to living in own delusions. But what if the key to the mysterious idea of worlds existing parallel to ours lies on the surface, and the perception of multiple realities is available to everyone with proper understanding and preparation? There are a considerable number of teachings that allow us to get closer to the secret of seeing other worlds, formed independently of the paradigm to which we are accustomed and have learned to call it reality. One of these teachings is the worldview of the ancient Toltec Indian people who inhabited North America, called Nagualism. Carlos Castaneda, a mysterious and mystical author of the 20th century, was the first to introduce his contemporaries to the ancient teachings of the Toltec Indians. One of the key ideas of Nagualism is the concept of the assemblage point. It is the assemblage point, according to Toltec philosophy, that is responsible for a person's perception of reality in a strictly defined and unique form, and its shift on the human energy cocoon allows us to perceive worlds that exist parallel to our reality. Let's get down to analysis, friends. One of the first concepts that you need to become familiar with in the context of understanding the concept of the assemblage point is the emanations of the eagle. Carlos Castaneda wrote in his books that practitioners of Toltec knowledge, whom Castaneda's teacher Don Juan called seers, perceive the world as myriads of energy threads or emanations that permeate space and go up into infinity. The creator of the emanations, according to the seers, is the force which they called the eagle. As Carlos Castaneda wrote about this, a person is separated from emanations by an energy formation in the form of a ball, or in other words, an energy cocoon. Inside it, there are small or internal emanations, which are a complete reflection of the external emanations located outside the human cocoon. Carlos Castaneda called them emanations at large. According to Toltec teachings, emanations at large always influence small emanations, bringing them into order and causing them to glow. Seers say that at the moment when emanations at large influence certain internal emanations corresponding to them, the first ones begin to glow and the person begins to be aware. The assemblage point is the area of the highest luminosity of internal emanations on the human energy cocoon. Seers say that by tuning different internal emanations to different external ones, a person is able to perceive various worlds, reacting and interacting with different parts of the universe, permeated and consisting of emanations. The assemblage point is the place where the transformation of the energy of emanations into data from the human senses occurs. And after this, according to the seers, the received data from the senses is interpreted in accordance with the current understanding of the world or the human cognitive system. According to Carlos Castaneda, this is the secret of the assemblage point revealed to seers. It follows from this that, by shifting the assemblage point, a person will receive new data from the energy of previously unused internal emanations and build a different world, previously not perceived at the previous position of the assemblage point. The fixed position of the assemblage point always supplies a person with the same data, which means it forces a person to constantly perceive or build the same world. Carlos Castaneda wrote in his books that for all people, the assemblage point is located in almost the same place, fixed in the process of growing up. Therefore, all people perceive the same world and often in the same manner. According to seers, there are forces and mechanisms that fix the position of the assemblage point on the human energy cocoon. Receiving data from the same emanations, a person seems to remember them and begins to constantly tune in only to them. This process is called creating a human inventory. An inventory is a logical system of relationships or cognitive system with which a person describes the world. a fixed and non-revisable inventory is the first mechanism for securing the assemblage point. In the process of consolidating one vision of the world, a person is accompanied by an inner voice, which constantly reminds him of what is what, and thus helps to keep in the person's memory a fixed inventory, on which the person is completely dependent. Toltec seers called the process of interacting with this voice internal dialogue. Internal dialogue is the second mechanism for securing the assemblage point. One of the unbreakable pillars of the process of activating internal dialogue is a sense of self-importance. The sense of self-importance, according to Nagualism, deprives a person of flexibility of perception, forcing him to protect and defend the unity of his inventory. It is interesting that seers say that a sense of self-importance makes a person fixate on the image of himself, which is essentially a feeling of self-pity. A sense of self-importance is the third mechanism for fixing the assemblage point. Don Juan said that the only real devil on this earth is human stupidity, the force that denies the diversity of the world and defends the inventory with its rigid and fixed boundaries in the human consciousness is stupidity. Moreover, the stupidity is a process of aggressively defending the limits of one's inventory system and asserting the idea of its uniqueness. According to Toltec knowledge, stupidity awakens in a person his entire dark essence. It is stupidity that manipulates perception and makes a person into an ossified creature that denies everything new, unknown and incomprehensible and fixes the assemblage point, developing in a person a tendency to see the world in a single and fixed version. Stupidity hides behind human pain and is therefore very difficult to recognize. Stupidity is the fourth and most insidious of all mechanisms for securing the assemblage point. How do seers shift the assemblage point? Castaneda's teacher Don Juan said that unlike ordinary people, magicians, having created an inventory list, do not admire it, but get rid of it. In a practical sense, this means that magicians are constantly creating a new description of the world, which allows them to perceive their surroundings in a different way from the previous one. In other words, by closely interacting with the world, seers study it and discover new previously unexplored connections between its objects. By this, their assemblage point shifts and they perceive a new world. This process is called training and is one of the key moments in the interaction of seers with the outside world and the development of mobility of the assemblage point. Stopping the internal dialogue and getting rid of the sense of self-importance are the core of the Toltec teachings, thanks to which the assemblage point becomes mobile on the human cocoon. A shift of the assemblage point destroys the sense of self-importance and deprives a person of the opportunity to cherish his own previously built image of himself, because the person begins to perceive a new world and a new image of himself in it. Following this, the feeling of self-pity, which makes a person clumsy and unhappy, disappears. This is precisely the state of ruthlessness of a true warrior, which Castaneda wrote about, which in essence is the destruction of the feeling of self-pity with a reverent attitude towards the world and others. Carlos Castaneda wrote that working with the force that causes inconvenience and suffering to a person in life, called by seers a petty tyrant, is another effective way to shift the assemblage point. By adapting to the action of a petty tyrant and using endurance, discipline, control, and a sense of timing, the seers ignited previously unused emanations inside the energy cocoon and thus shifted the assemblage point to a new position on its surface. This moment must be approached with all understanding and seriousness. This does not mean that you need to look for someone or something in your life and artificially spoil it. There is plenty of aggression and cruelty in life without this. Instead, a person needs to recognize the ever-tyrannizing inner force in himself or herself, which increases in an ordinary person with growing up and aging and serves as the source of all troubles in human life. The name of this force is stupidity. Getting rid of stupidity shifts the assemblage point. Stupidity itself is dissolved by the power of enlightenment and knowledge, which excludes fixation on a single vision of the world, and as a result, fixation in one position of the assemblage point on the human energy cocoon. enlightenment coupled with knowledge, with the help of the training process, can shift a person's assemblage point, freeing one from colossal concentration on a constant inventory. The power of enlightenment frees a person from the influence of stupidity, leading human life away from its tyranny, and fills a person's energetic cocoon with amazing and life-giving energy, which is called the energy of search. It is this energy that makes a person's consciousness flexible and encourages a person to train. One's life becomes the embodiment of a constant cognitive process, the energy of the search of which shifts the assemblage point from its fixed position and develops one's awareness. This is how a person learns to see infinity in the world and finds peace in infinity. The main weapon of stupidity is illusion. The biggest illusion in which a person lives is the illusion of disunity. In other words, concentrating on the boundaries of the description of the world, one ceases to see the overall picture and oneself as a part of nature, humanity, and the earth. Don Juan revealed to Carlos Castaneda the most important key to understanding the philosophical and practical component of Nagualism, which had gone unnoticed. According to the ideas of seers, the earth is a living organism that contains emanations that correspond both to the human cocoon and to all creatures inhabiting the earth. The Toltec teaching explains that it is the earth that is capable of giving a person a push or impulse so that his assemblage point moves and a person is able to penetrate into unimaginable worlds. By connecting his nature with the earth, a person gains a vision of unity which the illusion of disunity hid from him. The knowledge of unity is in the earth. According to ancient teachings, at the center of the earth, there is a spiritual heart called Ra. This is the inner sun of the earth. The sun Ra is the source of the energy of search. In other words, by connecting own spiritual heart with Ra, a person is able to fill oneself with the energy of search and interact with the power of knowledge. Thus, the energy cocoon acquires the glow of awareness, and the assemblage point is able to move from a fixed position and begin to slide along the cocoon, allowing a person to see new worlds. The knowledge of how the assemblage point shifts is found in a Ra.
We would like to share with you the practice of shifting the assemblage point through the restoration of the connection of the spiritual heart with Ra and the vision of the knowledge contained in it through the energy of search. By learning to build this connection, a person learns to perceive new worlds. Choose a place where it will be convenient for you to practice. Sit down, straighten your back, and close your eyes. Start breathing slowly and deeply using your diaphragm. Feel how tension is relieved and your body relaxes. Mentally tune into the spiritual heart, which is located in the center of your chest. Feel the warm, soft light that flows from this living source throughout your body. Mentally, focus your attention on the spiritual heart of the earth, called Ra. It is located in the center of the planet. Feel the warmth emanating from Ra and rising from bottom to top. Open your heart towards life-giving streams. The warmth of the sun Ra fills every open spiritual heart with the light of life. As soon as you feel this filling, it means the connection with Ra has been established. Embrace the energetic cocoon surrounding your physical body. Try to feel how big it is, how dense and plastic the cocoon is. Feel that inside and outside the cocoon, there are flows of energy that constantly interact with each other. Fill your cocoon with soft, radiant light from the sun, Ra, which carries the energy of search. The energy of search makes your cocoon glowing, mobile, and flexible. Watch these changes. Tune your feelings to your assemblage point. This is an area of bright light on the cocoon and the place where your perception is at the moment. For most people, the assemblage point is located at the back at arm's length from the body at the level of the heart. Direct the flow of heat and light from Ra through the assemblage point to the endless heights. Feel how the flow smoothly releases the fixation of the assemblage point and gently moves it upward. The unusual position of the assemblage point allows you to perceive the world around you in a new way. Regular practice of changing the position of the assemblage point to a higher position removes internal clamps, gives freedom and lightness, allows you to feel energy flows and control your own perception. Friends, write in the comments, did you manage to feel a connection with the inner sun of the earth? How did you feel the energy of the search? How did you feel after the practice? We are very interested. Most importantly, remember that regular practice and a sincere attitude are the key to a positive result. You will succeed.